Hi everyone. Hi, let us wait for 10 seconds so that meanwhile remaining people are going to join. Let me share the screen. Okay, if my screen is visible, if I'm audible clearly, kindly say yes in the chat box. Okay, so let us wait for 5 more seconds and let us start. Good. So again, hi everyone. How you are doing? I hope each and every one of you is doing good. So before we start the main topic, tell me what is happening with all of you. Is everything going well? Have you been following the things as discussed properly? Are you taking the supplementation regularly and are you following the diet plan properly? And you're maintaining the water intake? Are you working on your sleep, lifestyle? What's happening? Kindly type down in the chat box. And I want each and every one of you type it down in the chat. Just tell me how you're doing. If you're going well, if type yes. If you're struggling somewhere, you can mention that. I want to hear from you first. Okay, good, good. I can see some of you are saying good. Yes. Okay, good. Okay. I always want these sessions to be interactive. Okay, so there is no point of speaking me only for 1 hour. It's not going to be worth. Yeah, now comes to the main topic. This is actually one of the most common questions I have been hearing from most of the people. At least I can say 30 to 40% of the people ask me every time and they compare. So someone tells me my husband can drink milk every day. He's absolutely fine. But whenever I drink milk, I feel bloated. And someone says that everybody's keep taking or telling me dal is healthy. But whenever I eat dal, I feel bloated or gassy. And another person says that my entire family eats spicy food, but even a little bit of spicy food also give me the burning and acidity. How many of you can resonate? And someone says that my best friend drinks 3 cups of tea and he sleeps perfectly, but if I drink 1 cup of a tea in the evening, my sleep get disturbed. You may see this inside your own house, right? Think about it for a moment. Think about it for a moment. Is there any food that everybody in your family eats comfortably, but your body is responding differently? It could be milk, it could be curd, it could be wheat, it could be dal, it could be chana, it could be coffee, it could be fruits, even it could be something as simple as rice, right? I want you to type down one food in the chat box. You feel your body is responding to that food differently when compared with the other people around you. Type down what food it is. If you have any such food, kindly type down yes. So this is what I wanted to conduct today's session is all about, because many times when this happens, we immediately become confused. We start thinking is this something wrong with me? Or we start saying that is that food is bad? Or somebody tells us I'm eating it perfectly, I'm fine. Why are you having a problem? I'm fine, but for you only it's been happening. People always say this way, right? So today I wanted to remove this confusion. The important thing I want you to understand from the beginning is that nutrition is not only about what is present on the plate, and that is what we're going to understand today. Okay, why can the same food create a completely different experience in two different people? Why can you tolerate something at one stage of your life and struggle with the same food at the later stage of our life? Why can the same food sometimes feel comfortable and sometimes not? And why should not immediately label the food is good or bad or healthy or unhealthy based on the individual experiences? By the end of today's session, I want you to understand your food response in a much clearer way. I don't want you to become scared of foods. I want you to become better at understanding your own body. So keep one question in your mind throughout today's session. If the food is exactly the same, why the response is different? Now, before we go deep into the science, let us look at very simple everyday examples. When you see these examples together, you will immediately understand how common this difference actually is, right? So let us start, let us deep dive. Now, let us look at the very common examples. Milk may suit for one person perfectly, but the other person may experience gas, bloating. Dal and chana may feel comfortable for one person, the other person may feel heavy, gassy after the meal. Coffee for one person, they feel fresh and alert. The other person may feel experience acidity, palpitations, and disturbed sleep. Even the rice for two people eat the same quantity, but one may have to, I mean, one will be having the different or opposite metabolic response in the blood. So the point in this particular slide, it's very simple. The same food can create different responses in different people. And now the important question is why? If the food is same, then where is the difference coming from? Right? So food did not change. The processing, the person, it did it. So let us go with this. As I mentioned, food did not change. The person did. That means this is where I want to change the way you look at the food. Okay, many times we compare ourselves with somebody or else. He's eating the same food and he's completely fine, then why I'm getting a problem? But the food may be the same, the body receiving the food not be the same. For example, I have already discussed, two people in the same family may eat the same breakfast. One person finishes the meal and forgets about it, that he didn't even had a meal, that is how he'll feel. But the other person may start feeling heaviness, gas, bloating after some time. It does not actually mean that food is bad. Inside the body, many things can be different. The digestive enzymes, the way digestive enzymes work is different. The speed at which the body or the food moving through the gut may be different. The gut microbiome may be different. The way the nerves in the gut senses stretching gas may also be the different. So externally we all look similar, but internally the way the processes, the same meal can vary from person to person. So this is why I always tell the people, do not compare your digestion with somebody else's digestion. Okay, do not compare your digestion with somebody else's digestion. If somebody says that I eat this every day and I'm perfectly fine, there is, I mean, that is their experience. Your body may have a completely different response. And this brings us to one of the very important understanding. Food can be healthy from a nutrition point of view and still not be equally comfortable from one person to one person. I'm repeating again, the food is same, but the person's response towards certain food will be differs. Let us deep dive what exactly it's all about. Now comes to, is healthy food enough? Is healthy food enough? This is one of the most common confusion, and most one more another confusion every one of you are having. We often hear people saying that this food is healthy, so you should eat it. But just because a food is nutritious, that does not mean every person will tolerate the exactly the same way. As I've already discussed, take example for dal. Dal is nutritious. We know that it gives fiber, protein, minerals, but some people can eat it comfortably, like half a kg of a dal, it won't cause any problem. While the others may feel gassy, bloated, especially depending on the type, quantity, and the digestive condition. The same thing happens with nuts and seeds, fruits, vegetables, milk, grains. So we need to separate two things. One is the nutritional quality, what nutrients does this food provide. The second is individual tolerance. How comfortably is my body able to handle the food in a right way or food right now? Okay, these are not always the same. Okay, and this is very important because if something gives you discomfort, it does not automatically make that the food is unhealthy or bad. At the same time, just because something is considered healthy, that does not mean you have to force yourself to eat it in the same quantity or in the same form somebody else. Okay, instead of asking only is this food healthy, we need to start looking for a complete interaction between the food and the person who is eating the food. Okay, and the situation in which the food which is being eaten. I'm repeating again, instead of asking only is this the food is healthy, we need to start looking at a complete interaction between the food and the person who is eating it, and the situation in which he is been eating the food, that also matters a lot. Okay, yeah, now comes to the food response equation. Understand this clearly. Okay, now we can simplify everything into one useful idea. Understand clearly. Food plus your body plus the context in which you eat creates the final response. First part is food itself. What exactly did you eat? Was it milk or rice or dal or fruits or coffee or chocolate or something else? The second part is your body. That means how is your digestive system functioning? How are your enzymes working? What is your gut microbiome like? How sensitive is your gut? How is your metabolism? The third part is context. How much did you eat? Was it prepared? What did you eat it with? What time did you eat? Were you stressed? Did you sleep properly? Were you active throughout the day? All these things comes together. That is why it is very difficult to look at one food alone, say this food will definitely suit everyone or this food will definitely cause a problem. A better way to understand nutrition is to look at the complete picture. What food was eaten, who ate it, under what conditions it was eaten. Once we are smart, or once we start looking at it, the food this way, the response becomes much easier to understand. Okay, much easier to understand. I'm repeating again: food, the body, the person who is taking, the context in which state he has taken is equal to the response of the food, how it will impact in the body. Okay, now comes to our body is a processing unit or processing factory. Now I want you to imagine your body is like a processing factory. If I give you exact same raw material to two different factories, do you think both factories will always produce the exact same final output? Not necessarily, because the quality of the final output depending upon how the factory is functioning. The same way that is also going to happen inside our body. The food we eat is a raw material. The digestive enzymes are like machinery. They help break down carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and fibers. The body can able to absorb or use. The gut microbiomes like another group of workers. Whatever reaches the intestine can be processed differently depending upon the microorganisms present there. The same way, gut motility is like a conveyor belt of the factory. If the conveyor belt moves slowly, the processing will be done differently. If it is moving fastly, again the experience can be different. Then we have the nervous system, which almost acts like a control and the communication center. It constantly receives the information from the digestive tract, and after nutrients being absorbed, our metabolism decides how these nutrients are actually used or stored or converted into energy. So let me ask you something. If one person's digestive machinery is working differently, their gut microbiome are different, their movement is different, their nervous system is responding differently, can we expect them to respond exactly like somebody else's after eating the same meal? Yes or no? Kindly type down. Yes or no? This is why simply comparing your food with somebody else's food does not give you the complete answer. The plate may look identical, but the factory, the processing, that plate is individual. So interestingly, some of these differences begin even before lifestyle, stress, microbiome come into the picture. So some of the biological instructions are already present from the birth. From the birth itself, the biological instructions were present, right? So, as I mentioned, we share the same design but different instructions. The user manual will be different internally, but the machinery will be same. Now comes to one of the first reasons why our bodies can respond differently to the same food, and listen to it carefully. I'm not going to repeat it. All of us are human beings. So the basic design of the body is similar, but the biological instructions inside this design are not exactly identical to every person. I'm repeating again. One is genetics. All of us humans are human beings. The basic design of the body is similar: two eyes, two legs, one mouth, two ears, one nose, 10 fingers in the legs, two legs and 10 fingers. Common. But think about how two siblings from the same family can look different, have different body types, have different hair type, different height, even respond differently to a certain foods or the drinks. The same principle applies internally as well. Genes can influence the activity of certain enzymes and the way the body handles some of the nutrients and food components. For example, why one person can drink milk comfortably, why the other person gets bloated and loose stool. Why one person can drink coffee in the evening, sleeps normally, the other person cannot. Part of the difference can be from the genetic variation. This does not mean genetics decides everything. Lifestyle matters, gut health matters, microbiome, sleep, stress, many other factors also matters, but genetics give you the basic biological starting point. So when we say everybody is different, this is not only a motivational statement. there is actually biological difference in the way our system can function. So milk is the one of the easiest examples to understand, okay, clearly, because it shows us exactly how one enzyme can change the way the same food is processed, right? So we all have the same design, but we are all having a different instructions in the body. The how the functioning happens inside the body, it's completely different. Again, I'm going to touch upon this milk experiment to explain. So simple example, understand one biological difference can completely change the response to the same food. As I mentioned, milk contains a sugar called lactose. Okay, because most of are going to resonate with the milk, so I'm using milk as an example. So milk contains a natural sugar called lactose. For our bodies to absorb lactose properly, it has to be broken down by an enzyme called lactase. Okay, lactase is mainly present in the small intestine. So when a person has enough lactase activity, the lactose is broken down into smaller sugars called glucose and galactose. Then these can be absorbed to your small intestine. That person may drink milk and feel completely comfortable, but in another person lactase activity may be lower. That means the lactase enzyme is lower. In that case, some of the lactose is not completely digested in the small intestine. It continues traveling down and reaches to the colon. Once it reaches to the colon, the bacteria living there starts fermenting it. During that fermentation, gases can be produced. Undigested lactose can pull off water into the intestine. That is why some people, what we called, that is why some, 1 minute, I missed it. Some people experience bloating, gas, and abdominal cramps, also lose stools after drinking the milk. Have you seen anybody in your family having issues after drinking milk or any certain food? You are comfortable, but after taking that certain food, they feel bloated, gas, abdominal cramps, and instantly they go for the washroom or lose stools after drinking it or after eating it. How many of you have noticed that milk gives you a problem, but somebody else in your family can drink it? The same way, compare yourself and with your family members with a food or with milk or what are the thing, right? So this is a very good example of why the same glass of milk can produce two completely different experiences from two people. One person can be fine and one person, he will be having a lot of drama in the body, right? So the one important thing here is that lactase activity does not mean that we'll have a severe symptoms. Here again, I mean to say, the quantity of the milk the person is taking matters. The amount of lactase still available in the body matters. The gut microbiome matters. The sensitivity of the intestines also matters. So even with a lactose intolerance, the response can vary from person to person. So this is only one small example. Before any food finally reaches to the colon, it has already passed through several stages of a digestion: mouth, stomach, pancreas, bile, intestines, and have their own role in deciding how the food is being processed, right? So you can experiment, mean you can understand with the different things: wheat, rice, fruits, or any other foods you can easily tolerate, but your friends cannot, or maybe your friends can easily tolerate, you cannot. This is because of the enzyme, this is because of the mechanism which is happening in the body, right? Now, many of us immediately think about the gut microbiome whenever we talk about digestion, but before food even reaches to this bacteria, a lot of work has already been happened. Let me ask a simple question: where do you think digestion actually starts? And you people are intelligent, you have already attended all the sessions, so you know that it starts in the mouth. When we chew the food properly, we are physically breaking it into smaller pieces. Saliva starts the digestion of a certain carbohydrates. Then the food reaches to the stomach where it gets mixed with acid, digestive secretion. This is especially important for breaking down the proteins, fats, and preparing for the meal for the intestine. From there, the pancreas releases the digestive enzymes. These enzymes can help in breaking down the carbohydrates, proteins, fats into the smaller portions. Our liver produces bile, and bile is responsible for handling the fat. The gallbladder stores and releases the bile whenever it is required. Then the food enters into the small intestine. This is where a major part of the digestion and nutrients absorption happens. Only after all of these stages does the remaining material moves towards the colon, where the gut microbiome becomes even more involved in the fermentation. So when someone says that the food is giving me a problem, we should remember that there are many stages before the microbiome even comes to the picture. So the issue may be related to how the food was chewed, how it was broken down, how the digestive enzymes acted on it, how fats were handled, and how well the nutrients were absorbed. That is why not a single event happening in one organ, or it I mean not a this is not a single organ involved. It is actually a coordinated process involving multiple organs: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, liver, gallbladder. Everything brings a distinct functions, and it is going to bring us an important distinction. Simply eating a nutritious food, that does not mean that body has already digested or absorbed all the nutrients. Starting from mouth to till colon, there are so many things has to be done properly. Okay, how many of you have understood? How many of you have understood from mouth to the stomach to the pancreas to the gallbladders to the small intestine? There are so many stages involved, and if one stage is not working properly, obviously the others are going to be havoc, right? Now, there is an important point many of us misunderstand. Just because we eat food, that does not mean the body has already received all the nutrients. Okay, as I mentioned, I can give you costliest food, I can give you costliest supplement, but what if body is not able to absorb, right? Just because we eat food, that does not mean body has already received all the nutrients from it. There are different stages. First, eating. The food has simply entered into the body. Second is digestion. The body has broken down the food into smaller components. The third one is absorption. Only after that can those smaller nutrients cross the intestinal lining and enters the blood or the lymph, or so that the body can use actually use them. For example, if you eat protein, the body cannot directly absorb the whole protein. You're eating chicken, body cannot absorb the chicken directly. If you're eating egg, your body cannot absorb the egg directly. If you're eating fish, the body cannot absorb fish directly. If you're eating paneer, body cannot absorb paneer directly. It has to broke down step by step into a smaller peptides and amino acids. Only then those nutrients can be absorbed. The same happens with the carbohydrates, the same happens with the fat. They also need proper digestion before the body can use them efficiently. So let me ask you something. If two people eat exactly the same nutritious meal, does that automatically mean both of them will digest and absorb the every nutrient exactly the same way? Type down yes or no in the chat box. If two people are eating the same food, will you expect two people will get the same nutritionist value, same 600 calories, same vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin B, vitamin B12, vitamin B complex? Not necessarily, as I've already discussed. That is why I always say nutrition does not stop at the plate. What you eat is important, but how well your digestive system processes that food is equally important. And for that to happen properly, the whole digestive chain has to work in a coordination from chewing all the way to small intestine, right? Now, now this is where we need to understand digestion is not a work of a one organ. We already spoke. It is a chain. Each and every step has a coordinated or has to coordinate with the next step. Think about like a relay race. Mouth starts the process. The stomach continues. At the pancreas adds digestive enzymes. Bile helps with the fat digestion. Then the small intestine takes or most of the absorption. If one stage is slower or weaker, not coordinating properly, the experience of the entire meal can change, right? For example, food stays in the stomach for a longer, a person may feel more fouliness or fullness or heaviness or discomfort or bloated or breathlessness. If digestive enzymes are not available in adequate amounts because of a genuine pancreatic problem, the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, maybe it is not breaking down properly or efficiently. Now, if bile delivery is altered, so many of you have removed the gallbladders, some of you are having gallbladder stones. So, if the bile delivery is altered, the fat digestion can be affected, and if the small intestine is not functioning properly because of SIBO, SIFO, or because of the gut lining damage, because of a medical condition, the nutrient absorption is going to be completely affected. So let me ask you one thing. If all these steps have to happen in sequence, can we judge digestion only by looking at what was present in the plate? Obviously, no, right? How many of you say no, or how many of you say yes? If all the steps happen in a sequence, we can judge digestion by looking at what is present on the plate. No. That is why two people may eat the same food but experiences are different, because the coordination happening inside the digestive system may not be exactly the same. At the same time, we should not assume that every episode of gas and bloating means there is something wrong with the pancreas, bile, or stomach acid. There are mechanisms we are understanding. These mechanisms we are understanding not to diagnose, or we are giving ourselves, okay, not to diagnose on ourselves. Okay, the important point here is that digestion happens with a coordination, starting from the mouth to till it reaches to the small intestine. Everything happens with a coordination, and this coordination can changes as our body changes with age related decline obviously happens if you're ill, if you're under medication, if you're having any infections, if you're under stress, and different stages of a life, it varies, right? And now, this is something many people ask me. They say, I was eating food for many years. I never had any problem before. Why is the same food troubling me now? How many of you, resonate with it? I was eating the same food for many years. I never had the problem before. Why is the same problem or same food troubling me now? The answer is very simple. Your body is not exactly the same today as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, 2 years ago, or one day ago, I can say simply. As we age, many things in our body changes. Our digestive system function change, our gut microbiome change, our activity level change, sleep changes, metabolic health changes. We may have gone through infections, medications, antibiotics, surgery, stress, different health conditions, sleeplessness, conditions, different conditions over the years. So, if the food is exactly the same, the internal environment receiving that food may also be different now. For example, someone has a uh, tolerated certain foods very well in their 20s, but after the gastrointestinal infection, or after a major lifestyle change, or after a city change, water change, the same food may feel heavier, may create a certain symptoms or discomforts. That does not automatically mean that the food has become bad. It it does not mean that your gut has completely damaged. It is simply mean our physiological dynamics automatically changes as we age. Throughout the life it changes. So that is why we should not always say, I used to eat this before, should I definitely tolerate it now in the same way? No, maybe it varies. Our body changes, as I discussed. Our response towards that food also changes. And one of the systems that can change significantly over the time is your microbial ecosystem inside the gut. One of the systems that can change significantly over the time is your microbial ecosystem inside the gut, right? Now comes to one of the major reasons why most of us work what we call respond differently to the same food. Our gut microbiome is not exactly same as somebody else's microbiome, right? So right, tribal region people, their gut microbiome has, like, they can eat any food, but, like, people who are living in metro cities, they cannot eat, they cannot eat the raw foods, they cannot eat the foods which the tribals eat. Okay, the people who are in villages, they can eat certain foods. People who are living in metros, they cannot eat certain foods, and people who are living in metros eat it as certain foods, and people who are living in tribes or villages, they cannot eat, right? Because we already have discussed, we all have trillions of microorganisms living inside the gut, but the type of organism, their number, their activity, the way they process the food can vary from person to person, mother to child, child to father, father to grandfather. It varies from every person. So you can think of it like a fingerprint, microbial fingerprint. It is not a permanent fingerprint, because the microbiomes can change with the diet, medication, infections, age, lifestyle, environment. But in any given point, your microbial ecosystem can still be from mine. okay, still be vary from mine. That means, like, from different to person to person, it varies. That means when the same food reaches to the colon, it is entering into a different microbial environment in the each person. Two people may eat the same chana or the same fiber food. Okay, one person, the microbiomes may ferment it comfortably and the person may feel fine. Another person, fermentation may produce more gas and distension, and in someone with a more sensitive gut, even a normal amount of fermentation may feel much more uncomfortable. So the microbiome matters, but it is not about saying good bacteria versus bad bacteria. What matters here is different microbial communities can process the food in a different way. So this is why one person may say that this food suits me perfectly. The other person may say that the same food makes me feel very bloated. The food may be the same, but the microbial kitchen receiving it internally is different. Got it? Now, same food, different microbial kitchens we have already discussed. Now, let us take one simple examples. As I already discussed, chana or any fiber thing. You can see two people can eat the same quantity of chana, but the way the gut microbiome process can differ from person to person. Some of the what we call carbohydrates and fibers are not fully digested in the small intestine and they reaches to the colon. Once they reaches to the colon, the gut microbiome starts fermenting them. During this fermentation, the bacteria produces useful substances called short chain fatty acids. They can also produce as the gases. So let me ask you something. Have you noticed that you can eat the dal, the chana, or anything in a proper, comfortable way? You don't get any gas. You're fine with as much as the chana. But other person is there, even if they eat a small handful of a chana or handful of a beans, handful of a lentils, anything, they simply get a lot of gas. That does, is that in that case, like, automatically the chana or the food which they've been eating is bad? No. It also does not automatically mean that the person has a bad bacteria. No, it simply means that the microbial ecosystem and the way that food is being fermented may be different from person to person. So think of it like a two kitchens receiving the same ingredients. The ingredients are the same, but the processes, the final output can be different. In one person, fermentation happens without much discomfort. In the another person, there may be more gas and more distension. But here is something is very important. More gas does not always mean more symptoms. Some people may have gas, barely notices it. Another person may have similar amount of gas and feel severe bloating or discomfort. So now we are moving from what is happening inside the intestine, how strongly the body is actually feeling what is happening inside the intestines. Okay, I'm repeating again. We are moving from what is happening inside the intestines to how strongly the body is actually feeling what is happening inside the intestines. Okay, so now here is one more interesting thing. Whenever somebody feels a severe bloating, we usually assume that there may be a huge amount of gas inside the intestine, but that's not always the case. Two people will have the same amount of gas, the intestine stretching, but their experience can be completely different. Okay, one person may simply say, I feel slightly full. Another person may say that my abdominal feels extremely tight, uncomfortable. Like, I'm unable to, my whole clothes were became tight. I'm getting chest pain, abdominal pain. The other person will say that I'm feeling full. I'm feeling just full. Just simply full. The question is no longer how much gas is being produced. The important question is how strongly is the body sensing what is happening inside the intestines. Our digestive tract is continuously communicating with your nervous system. Movements, stretching, pressure, fullness are constantly being detected by the nerves and communicated to the brain. And different people may experience those signals with a different intensity. That is why amount happening inside the gut and amount of discomfort somebody feels do not always match perfectly with the other person. So from here, we need to look beyond the digestion and the fermentation understand how the gut and the nervous system communicate with each other. So that is the difference I get every day. At least two to three people will say, I'm getting a lot of bloating, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. Some person will say that I'm feeling bloated. They are like, very calm. They say that I'm getting discomfort. The other person say that I'm getting discomfort, I'm getting severe pain, unable to bear. So the way you experience, the way your nervous system communicates, it varies, right? The way your nervous system communicates, it varies from person to person. The same pain, but how you're reacting to that matters a lot. Okay. Now comes to the one more very simple example. Two people have a similar amount of gas stretching inside the intestine. One person may feel heaviness, the other person is okay, another person like extremely fine and all. Now comes to the 1 minute. I'm getting a call. 10 seconds. Yeah. So sorry for the disturbance. So yeah. Now let us understand like this term with a more clarity. Our stomach intestines are constantly moving, stretching, contracting. This is completely normal. Gas is also produced during the digestion, fermentation. Normally, the nervous system receives these signals, and the person may even notice most of them. But in some people, these the sensitivity of these nerves become higher, so a normal amount of stretching, movement or gas can create so much of a stronger sensation. They hear the sounds which is happening in the stomach. They hear the sounds. Like, they feel the discomfort, minute signals also they can sense it. Okay. Think about skin sensitivity. Two people are touched with the same pressure, but one may hardly notice it, while the other person with a very sensitive skin may feel even much more strongly. Similar concept can happen inside the digestive tract. That is why, or this is why we call it as visual hypersensitivity. The gut sending a signal, but the threshold at which that part of the signal becomes uncomfortable is lower than in some people. Some people they have highly sensitive towards certain thing. That is the reason people with conditions such as IBS or functional dyspepsia can sometimes have significant bloating, fullness, or abdominal discomfort even when there is no major structural problem visible on the routine test. We have in our community itself, there are so many people, their endoscopy report is fine, colonoscopy report is fine, MRI, CT, everything is fine, but still they have a kind of a pricking sensation, they have a kind of a pain, they have a kind of a thing. It's because of the visual hypersensitivity. The nerves are now they react more faster. They react more faster. Again, I'm not saying that they don't have any symptoms. The symptoms are real. We are simply understanding what that person is feeling, the internal signal more intensely. For normal person, it will be a bit no low, but the person who is having visual hypersensitivity, the intensity is more. Okay, now think about your own experience. Have you ever noticed that when you're relaxed, you tolerate a meal quite well? During a stressful period, even a normal meal feels more uncomfortable. That happens because the gut sensitivity does not work in isolation. The nervous system, emotional state, the digestive systems are continuously connected, right? So now that is something many of you would have personally experienced. One on a relaxed day, you may eat particular meal, feel very comfortable, fine. But during a very stressful week, the same meal suddenly feels heavy. You may notice more bloating, acidity, discomfort, urgency, change in bowel movements. Why does this happen? Because stress is not always only something it is happening in the mind. Stress changes the way the nervous system communicates with the digestive system. When you're stressed, the body shifts into more alert state. This can influence the gut movement, appetite, eating speed, the digestive sensation, the way you perceive the fullness and the discomfort. Some people may eat very quickly when they are stressed. Some may skip meals. Some may skip meal then eat a very large meal later. Some may notice constipation, while others may notice loose stool. Some may notice urgency. Stress can also make already sensitive gut feel even more sensitive. I'm repeating again. If you're stressed, the sensitive gut may even more feel that it is more even more sensitive if you're stressed. So the meal can be exactly the same. The body is receiving meal, that meal I mean the body receiving the meal shows in a different state, different from different thing. Normally, if you're normal, calm, composed, the way it will impact differs. The person who is in a stress and poor sleep varies. Okay. And along with that, as I've already discussed, that is very common example how the nervous system and the digestive system work. But I always wanted to make this clear. We are not saying the digestive symptoms are simply because you're thinking too much or that they are imaginary. The symptoms are real. We are saying that stress can influence the biological environment in which the digestion is happening. And once we understand this, another important point becomes clear. Even your own body is not exactly in the same condition every single day. The same food, but the state in which you are varies from day to day, right? Every single day it varies. Now comes to now comes to the another important point to understand. Many times we think I ate the same food yesterday, I was completely fine, but today the same food is troubling me. Why? Because your own body is not exactly the same physiological state every day. One day you may slept well, yesterday you slept well, your stress was low, you may be physically very active, your bowel movements may be normal, and your meals may be on time, you have taken the food on time. The next day you haven't slept properly the day before, you had a stress in the morning, you said long hours of working, morning you started work at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock till evening 6 o'clock, you haven't what we called uh, you haven't you haven't walked for not even for a minute, you had your lunch on the table, maybe for washroom you went and you came back, right? Food may be the same, but the environment receiving that food is completely different. That is why sometimes the same person respond differently with the same meal 2 different days. So whenever you feel a food that is not suiting you the one day particular, do not immediately decide that the food is the problem. Look at the complete picture. Have you slept? Did you had any stress? How active you are the day? How did you eat earlier in the day? How was your digestion that day? All of these things can influence the response, and this variation is not only limited how the stomach feels, even when the food handles the nutrients or carbohydrates can also changes depending upon the metabolic condition of the person. What is that metabolic condition? I'm going to go through now. Same carbohydrates does not guarantee an identical metabolic response. Until now most of our examples was on digestion, bloating, gas, discomfort. Now food response is not only limited to what we feel inside the stomach. Okay, let us take a simple bowl of rice. Simple bowl of rice. Two people may eat approximately the same meal. Both may feel perfectly comfortable after eating it. But if you look at the blood glucose, the response does not necessarily have to be exactly the same. Why? Because once carbohydrates is digested, glucose enters into the bloodstream. The body has to manage the glucose. Factors such as insulin resistance, your muscle activity, your metabolic health, your sleep, physical activity, what was eaten earlier can influence that response. For example, if you're a person who is having good insulin sensitivity, may handle the glucose efficiently. Another person, insulin resistance, may have higher or more prolonged blood glucose rise after a similar meal. That does not mean rice is automatically good for one person or bad for one person. And one single glucose reading does not tell us what somebody can never eat a particular food. The purpose of this example is to simply understand that food response also happens at a metabolic level. So, two people may say, I ate the same thing, my stomach felt fine, while internally their body may still have handled that meal differently. Okay, now comes to the another example. Okay, another one of the simplest reasons why the same food can feel differently or completely in a different person. Sometimes the food is not the problem, the quantity matters. For example, you may eat 5 to 6 almonds, feels very comfortable, but if the same person eat large handful of entire bowl, then they may start feeling heaviness or discomfort or the bloating. The same thing can happen with the other foods also. Chana, nuts, fruits, grains, ragi, millets. Same. Let me ask you something here. If five almonds suited you, but 50 almonds are creating discomfort, does that mean almonds do not suit you? Ask yourself, not necessarily. It may simply mean that your body can comfortably handle one quantity but not a larger quantity at a time. That is why we mean when we say tolerance can be dose dependent also. Many times we as a people food gives me, say that food gives me gas, so I completely stopped it. But before removing the food, we should ask how much quantity you have eaten. if I say eat biryani, you will be eating 1 kg of a biryani. Biryani means a small cup with bit of a pieces, but we tend to eat more and we say that it's causing me problems. So larger the quantities means more work for the digestion, and in certain foods more material reaching to the colon for fermentation. So instead of immediately asking, can I eat this food? Or can I, sometimes better question is how much food can I comfortably tolerate? Same with the supplementation, same with anything. Start slowly. Okay, if it is a good thing, you cannot eat so much quantity. In our community itself, there is a person, he has ordered Shilajit. Okay, he has ordered Shilajit. So generally, Shilajit means they have to take a small quantity. Okay, unknowingly, he has taken a bit of an extra quantity, it has caused him the trouble. So generally Shilajit is a very good thing, but unknowingly he has taken extra quantity, it caused him a discomfort. So everything is good if you're taking it in a appropriate normal quantity. So the example I have given is Shilajit is very good. For him also it is tolerating, but the quantity he has taken is the problem. So tolerance is highly dependent on the dose or the quantity which you're taking is matters a lot. Okay. Quantity is only the one part of the story. Along with that, even the quantity is exactly same, changing the way the food is prepared can completely change how the digestive system is experiences. Changing the food means the processing of the food. Okay, sometimes the food is same, but the way we prepare can completely changes the how the food is being experiences, how we experience the food. Think of it like a simple, like vegetables. Raw vegetables and well cooked vegetables are still vegetables, but the texture, the softness, the amount of work required from the digestive system are different. The same applies for the soaked, sprouted, cooked, blended, steamed, deep fried. For example, some people feel uncomfortable after eating large quantity of raw food. The same person, the same food in a softer cooked form may feel easier to handle. With pulses, legumes, soaking, cooking can change the texture of the food before it reaches to our digestive system. Even blending can changes the physical form, particle size, what we are eating. And when we take the same ingredient, deep fry it and large amount of fat, now overall meal is completely different. Simple steam to a light cooked version, right? So let me ask this. Have you ever noticed one form of a food suits you, the other form of a same food feels you heavy? Rice and biryani, right? So one of our favorite things, right? So yeah, the same way sweets. Okay, the same way with the sweets, the same way with a dal. So there are so many things. Okay, there are so many things. The form, the processing matters a lot, right? So that is why we should not always say that this ingredient so don't suits me. The ingredients is not at all suiting me. Sometimes better question is which form does my body can handle this food more comfortably. And preparation is only one variable. In real life, we rarely eat a single ingredient by itself. Most of the time, we combine with several foods together in a single meal, and that combination can also changes that overall response. Okay, normally you are eating certain food, it won't cause any trouble, but you're pairing that same food with then another thing, then it is going to create the drama, right? So now think about the way we actually eat food in a real life. Most of us do not sit and eat only a single ingredient at a time. We eat meals. For example, eating plain rice is different from eating rice with dal, vegetables, and some fat. Rice itself has not disappeared, but overall the composition of the meal has completely changed. When protein, fiber, carbohydrates, fats are eaten together, they can influence our digestion, fullness, the post-meal metabolic response. That is why one should not always judge one ingredient completely in isolation. The same principle applies for the many foods. One person may experience coffee differently on empty stomach compared with having it with on empty stomach he may feel differently, after food he may feel differently, evening he might feel differently. And the same way, fruits eaten alone may feel differently from same fruit added to a very large meal. That does not mean there is one compulsory food combination that everybody must follow. The important point here is a complete meal matters. So whatever somebody says particular food caused a problem, it is useful to ask what else you have taken in that meal. Sometimes what we are reacting, or what kind of a reactions you got, maybe it was towards certain food or certain ingredient or a total meal, okay, or the combination of a meals combined. So everything matters. So that's the reason we always say, whenever someone says we dig deep into 2 days back, 3 days back, the same food wasn't caused any problem, but suddenly he had some outside food, suddenly the water changed, suddenly he ordered something, so everything changes, the whole scenario changes. Till that point of a day he's very good, 1 month no month, 2 months no symptoms, but suddenly one wrong meal has going to create the drama, because your body is not ready, the body is not ready, and you have been eating wrong combinations, you have disturbed everything, because of that it happens, right? So one more thing, now look at one more important thing most of us ignore. One is the timing of the meal. Generally we should always eat the same time. The timing of the food matters. Even the good food, if you're eating it at different times, it's going to impact sleep. What was your sleep cycle before 2 days or 3 days, you get the discomfort. So sleep is also very, 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 very important. Sedentary, if you're active, the way your digestive system works better. If you're sedentary, the way your digestive system works different. Okay, so if you're active, the muscles are going to be active, and the metabolism is going to improve, and the body can able to break down the food comfortably. So timing, sleep, movement do not change the food itself, they can change the condition of the body receiving that food. So this is why one uncomfortable experience after eating should not immediately make us label food as an intolerance or allergic. We should need to understand what type of reaction actually happened, what that it mean, right? So as I mentioned, the immune system reacts to a particular food or the protein, or the reaction can include symptoms like itching. For some people, itching will get hives, swelling, vomiting, breathing difficulty, or other allergic reactions. A suspected food allergy should be medically evaluated properly, because food intolerance is different from person to person. In case of intolerance, the body may have difficulty in digesting or processing a particular component of the body. Example again, lactose intolerance is a good example. If a person is having lactose inactivity or lactase activity, lactose may not be digested completely, and it may cause him gas, bloating, loose stools. So that is very different from the true milk allergy. Okay, milk allergy is different, and lactase enzyme inactivity is different. Then there is another situation where body simply appears to trigger digestive symptoms. For example, somebody eats a large serving of chana and experiences bloating. That does not automatically mean the person is directly allergic towards chala. Maybe the quantity is high, as we have discussed. The quantity matters. Okay, maybe there is already undergoing fermentation is happening. Some fermentation is happening. Some other food which you have eaten was not properly digested. Maybe not properly. You have completely evacuated. The gut may have been more sensitive. The preparation of the meal or the combination have been a bit different. So bloating after wheat does not automatically means you're allergic to wheat or celiac disease, or gluten itself is definitely the reason. So we should carefully, before giving ourselves as a label, instead of immediately saying I'm allergic towards this food, or understand what type of response actually is been happening. Is it an autoimmune condition, or is it a difficulty in digesting something, or it is simply a food triggering symptoms under certain circumstances? Understanding the difference prevents unnecessary fear and unnecessary food restrictions. So after starting certain fermented foods, some people may get a bit of a bloating. After starting the fermented foods, the person's bloating has completely stopped. After starting certain food, they will get allergic reaction. After starting certain food, the person may feel good. So all the foods are same, but the way our body responds towards that certain foods varies from person to person. So food allergies are different, food tolerance is different, and if you have already an existing symptom, because of that you may feel, right? So let us bring everything together with a single example. Okay, milk. As I mentioned, imagine the same glass of milk with a five different people. So the same glass of milk with a five different people. What happens? Give me 1 second. Somebody is calling like crazy. Yeah, the same person with a I mean the same milk with a five different people. Person one drinks the milk and feels completely fine because the lactose is being digested properly. The second person, the lactase activity and more galactose reaches to the colon and gets fermented by the gut bacteria, and then another person may feel gassy and the bloated. The third person may tolerate in small quantities very well, but the quantity becomes much larger, the symptoms start appearing. So here the important factor is the dose. The fourth person may not have any major digestive problem, but the gut is more sensitive. Even a small amount of stretching or gas may feel more uncomfortable. The fifth person may be saying plain milk does not suit him, but they can have curd. If they take curd, they feel more better, right? Here, the form of food is different, so the experience can also be the difference. So let me ask you one question. After seeing these five people, can we simply say that milk is good or bad? Obviously, the question itself is incomplete, right? We need to ask a better set of questions. For whom it is being eaten, how much being eaten, in what form, with what, and at what time, under what circumstances, right? This one simple example shows us why food response is never decides one by one factor alone. Genetics, digestive capacity, the gut microbiome, the gut sensitivity, the form of food you have taken can all changes the final experience. So when someone says this food does not suit me, when and along with that we need to understand the reason behind that response before making a conclusion. That is why the whole idea of understanding your individual food response. Okay, now comes to the thing again. If you look at everything we have discussed so far, you can see why food responses never decides by a single factor. You can see genetics, microbiome, the sensitivity, the previous history, the stress factors, the dose and the preparation and the movement and the timing. So every single thing matters. Okay, instead of constantly searching for a perfect food, we should become much more better understanding about our own patterns, the kind of mistakes we do. Once we understand this, personalized nutrition should actually make us more confident about the food, not more frightened about a certain food. Understood? So this is one thing I really wanted to understand properly. Personalized nutrition does not becoming scared of food. Many people experience one episode of a bloating or a discomfort, immediately decide this food is bad for me, should I never eat it? Then slowly they start removing milk, wheat, dal, fruits, vegetables, nuts, something the diet becomes more and more restricted. Actually, that's not our goal. The purpose of a personalized nutrition is to understand your pattern, not to create fear. If a food troubles you, first observe the situation. Was the quantity so much? Was the preparation different? Was the meal is very heavy? Were you already stressed and sleep deprived? Has the same reaction happened repeatedly after eating the same food, same quantity, same condition? It's been happening, right? So we should always observe the patterns, and according to that, we need to work on. Here, our aim is always to be maintained as much as variety and nutritional adequacy as possible. while respecting what our body can comfortably handle. So personalized nutrition should always actually make you feel more confident. So you should understand what your body wants better, or makes you smarter choices, or avoid unnecessary restrictions, right? So whenever you feel that food is not suiting you, instead immediately eliminating it, there are few simple questions you should ask yourself. Again, as I mentioned, you can take the screenshot. What did I eat? How much? Preparation, combination, timing, sleep quality, stress. So focus on this. Okay. Again, now if we bring that entire session together, the answer becomes very clear. Food is only one part of the story. The final response depends on the interaction between the food and the person eating it. Your genetics influences the digestive metabolic function. The digestive capacity decides how much food to be broken down. Your gut microbiome influences how the food is being fermented. Your gut motility decides how quickly, slowly moves the through the digestive tract. Your nervous system decides how strongly you feel internal signals such as gas, twitching, fullness, discomfort. Your metabolic health influences how your body handles glucose, insulin, fats, energy after the meal. Then we have a quantity, preparation, food combinations, timing, sleep, stress, physical activity, and your health history. All of these factors comes together and creates an individual response. So that is why one person may eat a food, feel completely comfortable, the other person may experience. Even the same person may not experience exactly the next day. The internal environment keeps changing. So after today, means from tomorrow onwards, I don't want you to immediately ask, is this food good or bad? Can I eat this or not? Instead of that, ask a question, ask a better question. How my body is responding to this food in the quantity, in this form, under these conditions. So the real meaning of understanding your own body's response, the final message is, I want each and every one of you to remember this one simple thing. Food matters, but the person eating the food matters as much as the food. I'm repeating again, food matters, but the person who is eating the food matters as much as. When we understand that, the nutrition becomes more practical, more personalized, much less of a confusion. So the goal is not to fear of food. The goal is to understand your body better, observe your patterns, make choices that work for your specific body type or specific health. Don't simply copy paste the others. So now you got the answers and the session is over. And what are the key takeaways? Kindly type down in the chat box. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, or you can ask personally. We'll help you out. Kindly type it down and share your feedback in the group.